This is In the Loop. I'm Christian Bryant. Astrology is more popular and more accessible than ever. Nowadays, people joke about Mercury being in retrograde, and you might be asked what your rising and sun signs are at any given time. One of my own friends, who just so happens to be an ITL editor, even took the liberty of showing me what my birth chart looks like. We see zodiac memes all over Twitter and posts about different personality traits for different signs. The bottom line is, astrology is making a comeback, and it's also making a lot of money. One report from market research firm IBISWorld showed that Americans spend $2.2 billion a year on mystical services. This includes all things astrology, from palm and tarot card readings to astrology apps and more. Revenue for astrology apps grew to nearly $40 million in 2019, a 64% increase from the year before. Let's take a look at some of them, like CoStar. They raised $15 million from investors last April. The app provides personalized horoscopes and lets users connect with friends. It's attracting millions of users without any real marketing. Other apps seeing success are The Pattern, known for helping navigate relationships, and Sanctuary, where you can receive one-on-one monthly chats with an astrologer. These apps have been attracting more attention from investors, which wasn't an area they'd normally put their money behind until recent years. While the business of astrology is new, studying the stars to try to predict the future definitely isn't. The concept of astrology was born in 2nd millennium BCE when Babylonians looked at the stars to predict things like the weather, not quite the horoscopes we see today. Western astrology, with the 12 zodiac signs, emerged in the late 2nd century BCE in the Mediterranean region. By the 18th century, the studies of astrology and astronomy were split, and astrology was put to the side. And in the early 20th century, psychology astrology, which led to personality trait interpretations, was introduced. So astrology has always been around, but it's experienced spikes in popularity. Last time we saw this was in the 60s and 70s during the New Age movement. After that, you might have seen horoscopes in the back of magazines, but astrology was sort of in the background. With the popularity of the internet and social media, it's really taken off and become even more accessible. We sat down with Kay Taylor, the president of the Organization of Professional Astrology. She's been attending astrology conferences for years and says there was once a time when astrologists were worried about the future of their profession.
The organizations began to teach and have conferences in the 70s, but it was still kind of quiet. And I would say that in the conferences in the early 2000s, all of us who are more on the older side were looking around and saying, where are the young people? Like, who's going to replace us? How can we find them? And so now, like, for instance, the NORWAC conference, which is the Northwest Astrological Conference that's in Seattle every year, last year sold out. 500 people registered, and over half of them were brand new to the NORWAC conference and had never been to a conference before. And that's very unusual.
Recent years have also given rise to the celebrity astrologists, people like Chani Nicholas, who also has her own app and a popular book, and Elisa Kelly, who hosts a few different astrology shows and segments. We'll be bringing her onto our show a bit later. There's also a smaller group of astrology entrepreneurs who started to see a huge boom in business during the pandemic. Astrologers are partnering with businesses and doing brand deals, like working with lingerie companies to help customers find items based on their zodiac sign.
In the past, there were certainly some astrologers who were financially successful. I mean, I have supported myself and my family as a single mother since the very beginning. And so it was possible to make a living, and many astrologers made a living. But most of us we were operating out of the back bedroom of our house or doing readings at the kitchen table. Now, if you study astrology enough that you are competent and you set up your website and your social media accounts, you can be very successful with astrology.
A Pew poll shows that almost 30% of Americans believe in astrology. Just to note, we're not saying astrology is a science, and there's no evidence that someone's zodiac sign actually correlates to personality. but it does inform real-life decisions. A Lending Tree survey found that 1 in 5 adults have made financial decisions based on their horoscopes. But astrology experts say it's important to do your research on these different resources that can help guide you.
There are many different kinds of astrologers and many different calibers, and that not just everybody is a good astrologer. If I have a certain fear about this direction of astrology and becoming so popular and widespread, is that bad astrology can do a lot of harm.
A study from 1982 conducted by psychologist Graham Tyson showed that people often turn to astrology when they're stressed, and people are pretty stressed today. According to the American Psychological Association, since 2014, millennials have been the most stressed generation. To give us a little more context on the business of astrology and how it's gotten so popular, we're bringing in celebrity astrologer and author Elisa Kelly. She's the host of People Magazine's weekly pop culture show, Celebrity Astrology Investigation, a regular guest on the Drew Barrymore show. And popular dating app Bumble just recently announced that she is their first ever resident astrologer. Congrats on the new gig. Elisa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, without a doubt. The first thing I want to bring up is talking about the popularity of astrology. I almost got in trouble recently because my wife and I are both on CoStar, but for whatever reason, they were like, we're not compatible. And so we almost ran into a bit of an issue. I'm just curious to know, though, like, can you tell us why you think so many people are turning to astrology today, why so many people are engaging with astrology?
Well, I think historically, people engage with astrology when life here on Earth is very stressful and very confusing, and we're looking for answers. And astrology has been around for thousands of years, and it has done exactly what it is doing today, which is helping people see their life from a different perspective.
How has this boom in astrology helped you in your own career and business?
Oh, well, I mean, it's definitely made conversations like this possible. Several years ago. This is still it's unbelievable that, I can talk to such reputable journalists and organizations about astrology, because it certainly wasn't that easy.
Wow. was not expecting a compliment today, but thank you.
Well, I'm very honored to be on here and talking about astrology with you, and you're asking such good questions. It's really refreshing. So yes, I would say that, astrology, in the time since I have been practicing, I had noticed, the first thing that I noticed was really at the 2016 election, there was a huge shift and interest in astrology. And then because of the past few years, we've just had one unprecedented event after the next unprecedented event. It seems like astrology is really here to stay, at least for the time being. And of course it has, I think it's really had a tremendous impact, a positive one, I hope, on the way that people are navigating these difficult times.
What will this look like, a few years from now?
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I would say we're definitely in sort of the a fever pitch right now. I don't think we have totally reached the peak of it. We have 2 astrology dating shows that are coming out in the next couple of months. We have really big brands and businesses that are leaning into astrology and are seeing the potential of this, both not only just for marketing purposes, but I think in a way of really speaking the language and engaging with especially millennials and Gen Z who are really interested in this. Astrology as a tool, astrology as a practice has outdated all of us and will continue to. So astrology certainly is not going anywhere. And I think that astrologers and interest in astrology isn't going anywhere.
Our producer for this segment was asking me a lot of invasive questions. And so now I understand that you have my birth chart. Can you share with us anything interesting you picked up on
Here it is.
When you took a look at it?
So there's your chart, if you haven't seen it before. Living and breathing you. So a couple of things that stood out to me in your chart. And now, Christian, I understand if you don't want to share this on air because
It's fun. Why not? I'm an open book. Let's do it.
You're a Scorpio sun with the Scorpio rising, and any of your viewers who are familiar with the zodiac know that that is a very private and very guarded placement. So, you know, the fact that you are willing to be like, all right, let's take a look. Like, I believe you to an extent, because the double Scorpio definitely means you keep your cards close to your chest. And then on top of that, you also have a moon in Cancer, which is another water sign, very sensitive, very protective, very much, you know, you care so deeply about the people that you love and the life that you live independently from what we see here. So that's kind of, I'm already giving you a reading in that assessment.
You know, maybe I enjoy a little bit of privacy. I've tried to be as open a book as possible. My wife can tell you I am a little bit sensitive. That is most certainly true. So I feel like all of this matches up.
An interesting thing with, you know, having as much water in your chart as you do is that someone who grows up with this, depending on how they are raised and how these different expressions of them are fortified, might end up having a very easy, streamlined relationship with their intuition, or if they were afraid of being sensitive or they were being told that sensitivity is a sign of weakness, it could be harder for them to access those feelings. So the fact that your wife knows that you are sensitive, I think is really beautiful and is a really lovely indication of how honest and comfortable you can be with each other.
Elisa Kelly is a celebrity astrologer and author. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.